following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Exit Team is a show that takes people who have experience with, substance use disorder, being in recovery, has resources available, can offer education and any kind of insight. And our goal is to take that and bring it right into your living room. As we know, we are experiencing an epidemic these days. So whatever kind of resources and however we can spread the word, that's our goal. I'm joined by my dear friend, Phil.
Hello.
Phil, it's always an honor to have you in studio.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Jasmine.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Who's this guy?
Oh, who's this guy?
Hi, my name's Daniel.
Hi, Dan. What brings you to the show?
I got asked to share my experience here with recovery, yeah.
Yeah, so...
like how we just put you on the spot immediately?
So, there was supposed to be...
Feel it at improv.
There's going to be a lot of that. There was supposed to be another guest, and they couldn't make it. And like a couple hours ago, I just started messaging people, and someone was like, call Dan, he'll definitely come on the show. And I was like, I called him, and he said, yes, he's here. He literally came like right from work to here.
Yeah. I was very reluctant. I was definitely looking for every reason to say no.
He was too.
It's hard to say no to Jasmine.
I told Phil, he was like, he was kind of unsure, and I just gave him the address and said, meet you at the
studio. Got him.
I'm good at what I do. What can I say?
Absolutely.
So it's a show about recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a person in recovery.
Yes.
How long have you been able to abstain from a drink or a drug?
Ever since January 20th, 2018.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. And tell me like a little bit about yourself. Like what qualifies you to be on this show? Tell me a little bit.
If you want like a drug-related qualification.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Without glorifying. But you know what I mean? Like when did it start? Why did it start? What was going on? Like how did you grow up?
Well, I picked up for the first time when I was 12. It was alcohol. So like my family's Brazilian, and like huge stigma against drug use from that culture.
Okay.
Absolutely. But alcohol freely accepted like it is almost everywhere else. And I just grew up in that environment. There was always parties going on. That's what everybody did. And me personally,
where did you grow up?
Clinton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Is where I spent most of like my early childhood from 6 to like 12.
Okay.
And like I'd always had trouble fitting in, having came from like another country, moving there, trying to learn English, you know what I mean? Not really fitting in.
So you didn't speak English how old were you when you came to the United States? You were 6?
Yeah.
And you didn't speak English?
Yeah, I didn't speak any English. I remember
Wow.
The first word I learned was probably like door and window, and like dropped me right in school. So like I didn't really kids know how to make friends, but like I couldn't interact, you know what I mean? Like didn't know what was the in thing to do, if that's a thing when kids are 6. But like
well, I think at 6 years old there's definitely the ability to feel disconnected, alone, isolated, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And for many people that's what addiction stems from. So it sounds like you had experienced that at a very early age.
It's definitely something that like came into play too, because I came from like a really huge family, really close family out of Brazil, and like that's still a problem I deal with up till now, having gone back and forth to Brazil a lot growing up.
Okay.
There's a lot of that disconnect where like a lot of the people I felt were closest to me were the furthest away. But you know that, and also growing up in like a suburban community and not having much myself
Okay.
was also very different. You know, I would always sleep over people's houses, and their lifestyles were very different.
You would see all the things that they had and then
Yeah.
like compare yourself to them. Like, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Very, very
absolutely.
similar lifestyle to me growing up as well. To me, society always told me I was less than and not good enough because I didn't have. Society has become so materialistic. We have gotten so far away from like our spiritual rituals.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you're young, you grew up in a suburban neighborhood, you're from another country, you came over here not speaking English, you didn't have the material things that other people did surrounding you, and you grew up in a culture where drinking was encouraged.
Yeah, even that, and like it was kind of easy for me to get into it, just from like my family made it kind of easy.
To
You
get
know what
into
I mean?
alcohol, to get into drinking?
Yeah, to get into party
Okay.
and stuff like that. They didn't really find it weird for me to do that,
Okay.
you know, in any sense. And whenever, like I spent, like I said, I spent a lot of time going back and forth to Brazil. And whenever I was there, I was always with my cousins, you know, the ones closest to me in age, and we were allowed to do whatever we want. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
like it was really like kind of accepted, but like the way I went into it was very different. You know, the second time I drank, I, you know, ended up having to get my stomach pumped.
Was
Like,
that here or was that over in
that was
Brazil?
here, yeah, in
Here,
the US,
okay.
yeah. You know, never used like a citizen, let's say, a normal, you know, it was always overboard from the get-go,
Okay.
you know.
So there's just always something inside of you, just like going to the next extreme with substances.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You know, that went on without getting into glorifying. I used from when I was 12 to a few days shy of me turning 28. Not gonna say I didn't know recovery existed, but I didn't know what it was. Had no idea what it was.
I love that because that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right here, right now. We're trying to promote recovery.
I think that that's, one thing that gets overlooked often from people like us in recovery because, for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I tried so many times to get sober that, but I forget about the first time that I tried to get sober and I didn't know what was out there and what was available and what recovery looked like. And I didn't really know anybody in recovery. And, I often forget like how difficult it is to take that very first step, right? Because this is a process. Recovery is a process. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that get sober once and they stay sober forever because they do. But my experience wasn't that. And a lot of people that I've worked with, that was not their experience, right? It was trying over and over again. But that very first moment of like, okay, I know I have a problem. I want help, but like, what does that help look like? What are these people going to do to me? Like, what is this place I'm supposed to go to? Like, what does that entail and how scary that really is?
For me, even today, sometimes I'm just like, I wish I was normal. I wish I was normal because I don't want to go do this thing. And like, I would like to be able to like stay home or like, like make like family life a priority or something like that. And I don't get that luxury or option. I shouldn't say luxury because I actually live a very luxurious life these days.
Right.
So, but yeah. All right, sir.
Yeah,
So,
I have a feeling the same. I get resentful at it, but that's because like there's still like that voice inside of me that wants to use. But like for the most part, like knowing what I know now, I know I can't go back. Like for a long time, I never seeked help, right? Like the opportunity for going to my first detox was just me, just literally, I'd given up all hope on ever breaking the
how old
the
are you when you went
cycle
to your
that I
first
was in.
detox?
I was a few days short of 28.
So your first time like going to detox, you got sober?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
didn't. I had like 2 relapses after that.
Okay.
Right, but it was all from resistance
Okay.
because I still didn't believe that this was a thing, that addiction was a disease.
Okay.
I was still of the mentality that like I put down the few drugs that were really ruining my life, and that I could go back to just using using in a controlled fashion.
Okay.
right? That I could be
How did that work?
normal
The
citizen
How did
that
that work?
that could somehow still do hard drugs on the weekend. And like, you know, alcohol falls under my list of hard drugs, just in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't work. I found out I have a lot more issues than just the drugs, right? Because like the second I put like something, a substance in me, like I was already miserable. And like to combat that misery, like ironically, I wanted more drugs, you know what I mean? Which is like the nature of how this works with me anyways. And like, you know, it's like, it didn't do anything for me. It made me realize that like this never really did anything for me. You know, it was just pulling me down like further and further. And like any progress I made, like I stayed clean for 2 months the first time I went to detox. And like I learned more about myself in that 2 months than I had in like 10 years easily.
Isn't it crazy? You just grow by leaps and bounds when you first get sober. Yeah.
And then like I had that like impulse, you know, thought that like, oh, maybe I could, you know, like I'm not an addict. Like I can do this, you know, one night, use like I say I'm gonna use. But like already in the back of my mind, I knew what was going on. I just didn't want to like see it, you know what I mean? Like in like 6 hours, I had gone like overboard, spent every single dollar I had, you know what I mean? And really to no benefit to myself at all. Like I was just in a really dark place really quick, right? So like, you know, and then like 2 weeks after that, even though I was like scared to death of like the realization that just hit me that like this is real. Like right, like I didn't use and like enjoy it. Like I used harder than I ever did in those 16 years. And like it hit me in a worse way, right? When they say like this is a progressive deal, like I didn't understand that. And then like I was with some old friends and they were having some wine and I thought, hey, right. And this is after me talking it up, like, no, I'm trying to do this thing. I'm not doing any drugs. I'm not drinking. You know what I mean? Like, like I'm about this. And then after just sitting with them for 2 hours, and it's because I wasn't ready for this, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for this. The way the obsession like starts hitting, and once you're obsessed and like you just act compulsively, right? Like, I was like, oh, I can have a glass of wine, but they were out of wine, right? They were like, oh, we're all out. It's like, don't worry, we'll go to a liquor store. I'll buy you another bottle of wine. And like from that point on, like by the time I walked out of the liquor store, I had like $100, $200 worth of booze, and I was blacked out within 30 minutes, you know?
So what happened for you to find your way to where you have now?
So it wasn't overnight. Because the whole pride and ego thing really had to get breaking down with me. I wasn't accepting a help in the beginning. You know, I had like the desire to not use anymore. Because I knew it wasn't doing anything for me. It was just destroying me. But like I had trouble allowing myself to be helped, right? Following suggestions from other people that have done this before. And like have been through it, right? Because like in my mind, I'm gonna do this my way. Like that's for the birds. That's crazy service and all this other stuff that people talk about doing, you know, writing step work on yourself and all sorts of deals. I was like, that's all for the birds. Like I'm gonna figure this thing out. And like it was really just like over time, like I started taking a few suggestions here and there. I started doing things that people said helped them, and then like it really reached a critical point after I had been clean for like 6 or 9 months. And I realized that like, you know, I wasn't, right, people talk about like working a program and like doing it as it's laid out. And I was still doing a lot of it my way. And I like got this opportunity to go like on my first vacation clean, right? Go see my little sister in California. And we were like road tripping and going to all these beautiful places. And I just was miserable the whole time, you know, because like I'd gotten comfortable with my environment and like the people, places, and things were keeping me clean, right? They were keeping me from using. And then once I took myself out of it, and like I wasn't going to meetings every day, I wasn't engaged in the same like service, like activities I had put myself in. And then like I was just left with myself. And I still like hadn't worked on myself. I hadn't changed anything about myself at the core of it, right? And like that brought me to my knees. And like, you know, I want to live a life where I can go on vacation and enjoy it. You know, where I can
it's
be
vacation, damn, dude.
right, where I can be around family and be
Yeah.
there, you know, in the moment, not in my head obsessing like, oh, I got to get out of here. Like, this is driving me crazy, you know what I mean? And like, since then, after doing some work on myself, right, like really like following the path as it's laid out for me in what I'm involved in anyways for my recovery, like I've been able to realize a lot of that, a lot more peace of mind, you know what I mean? Be able to take days off, enjoy the whole day, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got sober at 28?
Yeah.
Okay. And what does your life look like now today?
Well, when you're at the bottom, you can only go up, you know what I mean?
We're 6 feet down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, if you're doing the right thing, you can only go up. It's looking like right there was a lot of like I was always really good at keeping the outside looking good. You know, I thought I was, you know, but like a lot of the things that I gave away are starting to come back.
Such as like material things?
Such as an apartment.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's huge.
Right.
I remember when I got my first one, I was like, hey, I was like, because I had never got an apartment ever before. Like, I mean, I've had apartments and condos, but they weren't mine. I didn't work hard for them. Let me tell you what, I did some like schemy things to get them. I was out there like the first apartment that I got that like I worked hard for and I earned. I was so proud of myself. First living room set I bought, I can't even remember.
Right, it's a lot of firsts, you know.
Yeah.
I bought my first like bed, right? Like all these crazy little things, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Credit scores like starting to come up, you know, because I've like gave away like 2 cars, you know what I mean? Things like that, blown up. All sorts of unpaid things, student loans and crap that I started like paying back. And like, you know, it doesn't sound crazy. Like, oh, you pay your bills now. Like, that's crazy for me, man.
Dude, that is crazy. I get so resentful. I have a good job and like I'm gonna like use this term loosely, but like I'm considered successful, but like there is so much wreckage. And so all my money goes to bills.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's just so much
It's
wreckage. I know. It's like, will I ever get out of this?
But it's so necessary for us, right? To make, you know, to make amends with our past, or whatever that looks like financially, emotionally, all of those things. It's the only way that we can move forward, because those things are continually pulling us backwards if we're not working on them. And that's why, you know, I commend you for talking about those things and for having worked on them in relatively early sobriety, you know, and recognizing the importance of doing that. So.
Right. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of things I heard early on, and it was I just really wanted to give myself a chance to actually make it. You know, I spent a year and a half in a recovery house, you know, a sober living situation.
Good for you.
Didn't want to stay. No.
No one does.
Every 3 months I was looking for an apartment. I was, you know, but like they told me, like I heard a lot, like don't run from a bad situation to put yourself in a worse one. You know what I mean? Which is what I saw a lot of people doing. And, you know, if they survived, you know, like sometimes I'd see them back where I was again, you know what I mean? Which is amazing to see people come back, like, don't get me wrong. But like, I don't want that for me, you know what I mean? Like, it told me not to make any crazy radical changes, you know what I mean? So it's taking it slow, one thing at a time. Like, I remember moving out, like I moved out of there 3 months ago, and I like had to keep it like really like at the front of my mind. Like the only thing that's changing right now is the address. Like everything else is the same. Like, you know, I have to keep doing what I did to get to this point. Right? Because like, yeah, I mean, it's working. Simple as that, you know what I mean? A lot can be said. You asked what my life is looking like nowadays, and like I'm starting to rebuild relationships with a lot of the people that I pushed away myself. You know what I mean? Whether I just, you know, whether I just ghosted them or whether I like just the way I was acting was so aggressive and ludicrous that like they didn't want to talk to me anymore, you know what I mean? Or like that become surface relationships, you know, relationships with my sister, my brother, mom and dad, biological father, cousins, like, you know, it's crazy to see. My brother got married last week, you know, and I could like, you know, I could be there and enjoy it, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Which is amazing. Like a lot of our family came up that I hadn't seen in a while. So like they were used to seeing me the way I was before, which was, you know, like I've seen the gradual change. So to me, I don't think I've changed that much.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I guess I have changed a lot. So yeah, I can see it in their face when they see me because, you know what I mean? There's a lot of excitement, you know what I mean? A lot of support from my family. So like it's not really what I expected, you know what I mean? Because I didn't think I was doing that much damage. Right? But like apparently I was.
Yeah.
Right? I thought the only person I was hurting was myself at the end of the day, and I decided to take that hit.
I think that's one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, right? Is that we're only harming ourselves.
Right.
You know, but now being in recovery and working with others in recovery and dealing with their families, like I've gained this whole new appreciation of like what each individual person that's struggling then affects at least 10 more people around them, right? Like that's like, you know, their mom, dad, sister, brothers, aunts, uncles, whatever the case is, right? The ripple effect from our actions and from our suffering is far and wide. And we like to tell ourselves that we're not hurting anybody but ourselves, right? But the truth is we're hurting a lot of people. The people that love us the most are the ones that are suffering the most from this, right?
Yeah. Well, it's huge. It is huge. Because like you said, a lot of it's unseen ripple effects. And like, you know, I was really nervous. This is the first time I've ever really talked about like, you know, my addiction or my recovery on a public platform, you know what I mean?
Welcome to the team,
Yeah,
kid.
Welcome to the team. We got plenty more opportunities
Don't
for you.
worry.
We're going to send you the list of commitments.
Now that Jasmine
Jesus
knows that
Christ.
you'll
we'll
do this.
see you out
What I
there.
signed up for.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Get used
it's,
to these faces.
Yes.
you know, like, you know, since I've been in recovery, like, I've been taught to like live in the solution, not the problem. You know what I mean? And like, it's whether it's my own addiction or like the damage that's going on around in society in general, you know, all around us, it's always had an impact on me or caused me to think a certain way. You know what I mean? Just contributing to like this negative outlook on the state of affairs, if you want to say that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can find something negative to focus on within anything.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right, absolutely. But like, I have to live in the solution now. So
Yep.
like,
Life is what you make of it, friend.
right. I can say the same thing. I don't want to get into like specific service that I do, but it was like similar for like prisons, you know, like spent my whole life trying to stay out of one, you know what I mean? But like, if I'm so against that, then why am I not doing anything to help the situation?
Are you?
Yeah.
You do. You go into prisons and you speak?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I try to like help where I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Service. Yeah.
But only because like it is such an issue, and it's like I mean, I'm not a politician, you know what I mean?
Nor am I.
But I feel like a lot of the solutions are money driven. You know what I mean?
Ulterior motives.
Right.
Some people would agree.
Right.
I don't know, but I do know that it, depending, things can sometimes tend to look that way.
Right. And like that's
But you also all don't know the truth, and you have to remember that. That's why I stay out of things that I don't know about.
right.
You know?
So like at the end of the day, I just do my part. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
And that's all we can do, right? Is
Right.
we try to stay in our lane and find the best way that we can be of service to others that are suffering, right? Like for me, like that's the most important. Like the last thing I really ever wanted to do was serve in politics, but I was led in this path where I realized that in an effort to help a larger amount of people, I needed to do something larger. And, you know, and
Woo! Yeah.
right.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Fired up over here.
And that's the reality of it, right? But until we can help ourselves, like we can't help anybody. We know that, right? The three of us sitting here have tried that more. Like I wanted to focus on everybody else instead of fixing me, right? But once we were able to gain some power and some knowledge, and we can use that in a positive way and use our pasts in a positive way, it gives us more power to in an effort to help others. And for me, I don't know that I would still be sitting here today sober if I wasn't given the opportunity to help others in this. This is the one foundation of my recovery is my opportunities that I have to help others, right? And I think that Jasmine's proof of that. And just having met you, I hear you saying that, right? Like if we don't help the ones that are still suffering and others, like who's going to do it? Like if not me, then who? Right? That's the question that I ask myself all the time.
It is our
You know,
purpose.
it is for sure.
We've all been called to it.
I think so.
And when I fulfill it, I feel very good. They call it spiritually intoxicated. Yes, I can always tell how I feel. You know, am I living you know, the way that the universe has intended, or am I living Jazz's way? I can feel it. I know. Yeah, you know, I have been spiritually in tuned. You know, I've done a lot of work to get in line with the universe, and I know I can literally feel it in my entire being. When I am not living an authentic way of life, I feel gross. Like physically, mentally, everything seems cloudy. I don't feel good, and for me, that's painful. And so I've got to make two options. You know what I mean? You can only live that way so long until you have to do something to escape the pain. You know, for me, hopefully it wouldn't be to pick up a substance, but maybe to perhaps engage in bad behavior, something like that for an effect produced.
We find other ways to substitute for us.
Your show's over, man.
But yeah, before we completely run out of time, I'd be remiss in not mentioning that this is the second time that I've been on this show, and Bobby has not been here. So I'm putting him on notice that the next time he better be here. So.
Bobby, you've been called out.
Yeah, you've been called out.
I don't know what you're going to do about that. So
we'll have to see.
We'll have to see. Bobby's been called out. It's official. Dan heard it.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. All the viewers have heard it.
Picking up your slack, Bob.
Thank you for coming on. Was it as terrible as you thought it would be?
No, absolutely not.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for having. Thank you for coming on. And also thank you for having us on.
Nice
good. Same
you.
here. It was good to hear you. It's always good to hear a fresh perspective from someone that I don't know. Yeah. You know, it seems like sometimes we travel in these circles that Jasmine and I travel in, and we see the same people, and which I love. Don't get me wrong, but it's always nice to hear somebody's fresh view on what got them to where they are today. So.
Right.
Yeah, because it teaches me things always.
All right. Thank you for coming. Love you all. Thank you guys for watching. We love you so much. Any questions? Reach out to I Am a Heroin Addict. That's where we are on Facebook, and I can forward them to Dan. Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.